All right, 5-4 square root functions. I'm going to flip. Here we go. Okay, basically what we're going to do today is we're going to graph these square roots. Here's the parent function and what the parent function entails and stuff like that. So your parent function of a square root, as you might suspect, is the square root of x. These aren't hard to graph. These are actually fairly painless to graph. Where the pain's going to come today is more and more about your domain and your range. Okay? So for your parent graph, and this is parent specific, this isn't for every single one, but just the parent here now. The domain is x's that are greater than or equal to 0. Why 0?
Because you can't have a negative square root.
Bingo. You cannot take square root of a negative number, at least, and then go graph it on an xy plane. Okay? And that's what we're doing here today. We're graphing on an xy plane. You can take the square root of negative. You can actually graph it. We didn't cover it, but you can. But we're not doing that today. So your domain is your x's that are greater than or equal to 0. Your range corresponds from that. Okay, so it's whatever is evaluated. In this case, to give you greater than or equal to 0 as well. The rest down here is basically restating all those facts in different terms. Okay, so that's your main point today, is the domain, the range, where your x's start and go, where your y's start and go. All right, questions on that? Everybody okay? Next slide. Next slide, your transformations. Now, before I used to make, it's the same song and dance as any other graph, as far as your translations and movements and stuff like that goes. Your main thing on this slide is this function right here. Make sure you know that. Okay, because we're going to use that here on the last example today. The other thing you need to know is this. H and K in here. Alphabetical order. HK is your starting point. Okay, because square root graphs actually have a point at which they start. Okay, so this doesn't go on and forever and ever like lines do, like quadrilaterals do, like polynomials do. Square root functions actually have a starting point. Okay, now they go on forever after that. But that's it. Okay. All right, so graph y equals square root of x minus 2 plus 5. Okay, so take your calculator. Yes, that's all you need to do is take your calculator. Go y equals and put in the square root of x minus 2 plus 5. All right, now, a couple things. Number one, you need to know your calculator. Okay, we all have different versions of the TIs. You need to know which one you got. Newer calculator type people, when you go in and type this, make sure after you hit the minus 2, you hit right arrow to get yourself out of the square root. Okay, if you don't hit that right arrow, then you're doing square root of x minus 2 plus 5, which ends up being plus 3. So make sure you hit that right arrow to get yourself out. Older calculator type people, make sure you close your parentheses on what's intended to be in your square root. Okay? Because you'll show up square root parenthesis, you put in x minus 2, you hit parenthesis again. Those should be your only two choices. Okay? Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. So, you go second table, we look at that guy, and we find out that our starting point is at 2, 5, right there. It says error after that. See that? How 1 is error, 0 is error, negative 1 is error. Why are all those errors?
It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not real.
Good. Ms. Williams. Yes.
Because there's a 0 under the square root.
Good. Okay. 2 is the first number that you can take the square root of up here. See that? Because 2 minus 2 gives you what?
0.
0, which turns into 0 here. So 0 plus 5, hence the 5 there. Okay. If this was a 1, if this was a 0, then you get negatives in here and you can't even do it. Okay, see that? So that's why you have all the errors after that. Okay, so we go 3, 6, and then we go 6, 7, which is right there, and I think that's all we can make fit, because after that's 11, 8, yeah.
You make 11 8. Is that the outside?
Maybe, I don't know, that's close enough though. Okay, so you do your best to etch a sketch of that. Alright.
So we'll at least like get credit like if we get the numbers right.
Yeah, and here's what I'm going to look for, okay? I don't need to see you write that table out like I used to, okay, X column, Y column. As long as you make your bullet points big enough that I know where you intend to go through, basically, then I'm going to give you credit. Okay, I don't need to see you write out that table because that's the table you're using to graph it anyways. Okay, makes sense? Just make sure your bullet points are big enough that I can see it, okay? Don't go exaggerating with it, all right, but just make it work, okay? Okay, and then the second part, I don't want to say the harder part, but the second part, domain. Domain are your what?
X's.
X values, ranges your Y's. Okay, so now we need to figure out where our X's we can use and what Y's we can use. Okay, so the first X we can use is what? 2. Okay, we can use 2, we can use 3, 4, 5. We can't use 1 or 0.
So greater than 2.
So greater than or equal to 2.
Y's.
Y start where?
Greater than or equal to 5.
Good.
Okay. Is that all you have to know?
That's it. Oops, wrong button. My bad, my bad, my bad.
What's up?
-3. X, the first X value that gives you 0 is -3. Okay, because -3 plus 3 is 0. That's the first number you can take the square root of. So that's always where your graph's going to start. Okay?
So X has to be greater than.
So then X will, once you do domain, yeah, X will be greater than or equal to -3. Because it goes from -3 on your X values right here, and then it keeps going to your right.
Wait, so the range so would the range also be greater than or equal to -1?
There's not one less than because it goes down.
It'd be less than.
Alright. Maybe it is wrong.
Here's how. See how this 2 is negative here?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that's going to actually flip your graph. Okay, so now your Y values that you hit, give me a Y value. 5, good job. Here's 5. Okay, here's a Y value of 5. Is the graph there?
Is what there?
Is the graph up there?
Sure.
No, it's not. The graph's way down here.
Oh.
Okay, there's no graph here. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, none.
Yeah.
Your graph doesn't start until the Y value of -1 right here.
Oh.
And then it keeps going down, down, down. Flames got higher. Ring of fire.
Okay.
Okay? So therefore, Y has to be less than or equal to -1. That's as tricky as they're going to come.
Okay.
Is whenever you flip the sign up top here, you flip the sign down here. Because the graph will go down now instead of going up.
Okay, what if it's like a graph search? That's how you want, like, is that, like, what?
Okay? Write the equation of the square root functions shown.
So you can do it backwards?
Uh-huh.
Find domain and range?
Nope.
Oh.
We're going to need that guy. Okay?
Oh, is that the thing?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Now, H and K is what? Your starting point. Good. The starting point of this one is right here, which is what?
2, 1.
Two.
It looks like a 1, I'm sorry. It would be X minus 2 plus 3.
Hang tight. Okay, so the starting point's 2, 3. Alphabetically, that goes HK. What's X and Y?
2.
No.
What is X and Y?
What's X and Y?
Domain and range.
Okay, but what does that mean? In context to helping us with this problem, what's
Rise
X?
over run.
No.
X, 9, 1.
On.
2.
Still be quiet.
Graph.
Good. Your X and Y here are your X and Y that's on the graph. Okay, so you need to go find an X and Y coordinate that's on your line. Okay, it's on your graph. And you need to make sure it's the one exact one. Okay, so you can't just go picking random points,
Do we do 6 and 4?
which means you got to pick the exact point you need, which is going to be right there, like Son said, 6, 4. Okay. Then you plug everything in. So 4 equals A square root. X is 6 minus H is 2 plus 3. Goal here is to solve for A. Okay. All right. Kill 2 birds. What should you do?
What do you mean?
2 steps in 1.
Wait, what are we trying to do?
Solve for A.
The square root of 6 minus 2.
Make that
7.
2.
Make that 2. Well, okay. Skip.
Make it 4.
Make it 4.
Then you can subtract 3 over.
And subtract the 3 over. Good. Make that 1.
1.
Okay.
Square it.
Square what?
1 in. Square root of
I wouldn't.
4. Me either.
Why? I know why I wouldn't, but why wouldn't you?
Because there's that A that's right there.
No.
'Cause- yeah. Well, because 1 squared is 1.
No.
It's not? Can you do 1 squared?
Yeah. 1 squared is 1. You just said it. There.
But
Good
you said
job.
no.
But yeah, but that's not what you do.
Well, yeah, but I was saying, like, well,
Did divide the A?
No.
1 squared. And
Square the 4?
circle it.
Harris. Square root the 4.
So we get 2A.
1 equals 2A.
That's what I said.
No, you said square.
Oh, I thought you said
Stupid roots.
You said square both sides, which to me, and here be careful with this, okay? If you do it that way, then you got to make that A squared. Okay? You'll end at the same answer more or less, but then you have to make sure you square this A. You know what you guys won't do? Square that A. 100%. So make sure you put square root the 4 instead. Divide by 2, A equals what?
1
1/2.
half.
Is that right?
Yeah. No.
Why not?
You have to make it square root 1.
Good. Write the equation.
So
All right.
square root x minus 2 plus a
Your walls.
Oh, because we just solved for A, so I have to put it.
Okay. Worksheets for homework.